I can't be on every single sales call anymore. I can't be on every single account management call anymore. I have too many clients, but I'm going to set you up for success. Some people were good with it. Most people were, but we did lose some clients through that. And you have to be okay with that. If you're the kind of leader that you go, I'm not okay with that, then you're not going to be able to grow.
Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the 8-Figure Agency Show, where a successful entrepreneur and a soon-to-be successful entrepreneur help you build an 8-figure agency by documenting our successes and our failures.
Man, I am super excited about today, what we're going to be talking about. Before we get into that, so all my kids are sick right now, Derek. Both kids were throwing up last night. One of my kids threw up twice. And then last night, my wife got really, really sick. And so I have a nurse that comes and gives me an IV in my arm. Here's the IV. And she's giving me like a whole vitamin C packet thing that I have hanging over my camera right now. So I'll send you a picture of that. You can put it up in the episode. So hopefully I don't get sick. It's a little bit of a hack of trying not to get sick, but I'm excited about today's episode. Could you kind of frame the conversation that we're going to be having today?
Yeah, no, for sure. This is going to be a really hot episode, and hopefully, hotter than we had in a while. It's been rough for me last couple of weeks. This is going to be exciting because we're talking about 7 steps of how you can successfully scale and build an agency to $1 million+ in monthly recurring revenue.
Yeah, that's a big one. So a lot of people want to get there. So what do you want to just jump into point number 1?
Yeah, let's just hit it right from here. Riff off on these points.
Absolutely. So number 1 is you first of all, you got to stop waiting around to start your business. So here's the number 1 thing that drives me nuts about people, that they ask tons and tons of questions and they don't actually ever act on anything. And they don't realize that the questions that they're actually asking are the wrong questions. It's not possible for them to ask the right questions at this point because it's too early on, right? And so starting is the hardest part of business. That's the absolute hardest part. And I'll give you a story, Derek. So we had a guy in our mastermind, and he was like, Gary, all the people that are in your Discord for Agency Growth Engine are all the people that I want in my community. They're the same kind of people that I want. How did you do it? And I told him, okay, well, step number 1 was, first of all, I started telling people, being vulnerable with people, saying, hey, this is what I do right. Here's what I've done wrong. And then step number 2 is you got to be willing to help people to build that community. And I said, so instead of coming to me and asking me, hey, what do I need to do to start my community? Ask me, how can I help you grow your community? And guess what you're going to learn by default? You're just going to start growing. And so I think stop asking all the questions and just start something. Just go out there and start something. Give it 120%. And if you do that, you are going to learn really quickly. You're going to pivot. And the thing that you're going to start with more than likely isn't going to work. And especially in agencies, it's fine. You're going to pivot. I tell you this all the time. I started in email marketing for restaurants, and I now do dental group marketing. Nothing could be further from each other. But it's because we've pivoted, we started, we pivoted, we started, we iterated, we failed, we got up, we did it again, over and over and over and over again. And that's what you have to do to even be in the conversation.
Yeah, I see this often. So, by no means am I near $1 million MRR a month just yet. But I see so many people, they come to me and they're like, hey, I want to start this thing. And literally they always ask for advice. They start asking questions. I have some people hit me up every day in the DMs. And they start asking questions. How do I do this? How do I do this? And I just say, hey, so when are you going to start? When are you just going to start selling something to somebody? And every time you get there, you hit a wall with 99% of people. Some people surprise me. They're like, yeah, I sold this already. And I'm like, this kid's going to crush it. Other people, it's always excuses. It's always as if they're hitting a wall at that point.
It's like, I have to build a website first, or I have to start, I have to build my logo first. And I'm like, no, don't do none of that. Don't do any of that. None of that. Have none of that. Do none of that. Go out and just start something and start talking to people.
How would you tactically, right? Because, a lot of people, I bet, are sitting there thinking, oh, easy for you to say, Gary. You run an 8-figure agency. Easy for you to say, Derek. But, both of us have to actually just start something. What tactical advice would you share with somebody who is resisting that?
Yeah, so So this is what you're going to want to do. Here, I'll give you the list of all the things you're going to want to do before you actually start. So number one, you're going to be like, I want to build my logo. I want to build my website. I want to build a brand. I want to build out my social media. I want to have a couple months worth of social media content. I want to build all my email marketing that I'm going to be doing. I want to build a target list. I want to build, my product, my service, how I'm going to build my account management team, how I'm going to, what platform I'm going to use to manage all of this. You're going to want to build all of that, and you have to fight that urge on all of it. That doesn't mean you don't have a plan. It doesn't mean you don't have a plan, because you're going to have a plan. Here's your plan. What is the problem that I'm solving? That's it. What is the problem that I'm solving? Okay, I mean, for agencies out there, there's a ton of problems that you can solve. Now, if you're in the position, I've had people tell me this, I don't know what problem I'm going to solve, or I don't see a lot of problems to solve. You haven't been in business long enough. You need to go work for somebody else. Go get a job. And if you go work for somebody else, you're going to see hundreds and hundreds of problems, right, Derek? If I came and worked at your agency, I'd see problems everywhere. If you came and worked at my agency, you'd see problems everywhere. You'd see tons of opportunity, right? So you need to go find a problem that you're actually going to fix. And then once you decide what you're going to go fix, find the person that you're fixing it for and go talk to them. So come to Derek, come to me, come to somebody else and say, here's what I'm thinking. Would you buy this? Would you buy this? This is what I'm thinking. And if they say, hey, that's a good idea, I actually would buy that. Guess what? Now you have a potential client. If they say, I don't see any value in that, you either have the wrong person you're talking to or you're solving the wrong problem. That's it. So you go back and you reiterate. It cost you zero. It cost you nothing. You can still have a job and do it. You can still have everything that you're doing now and do that until you find that right thing. And when you find that right thing, trust me, you will know. People will let you know. Because if you come to me and you said, hey, I can solve this XYZ problem, and it's a problem that I have, I'm going to be like, bro, yeah, that sounds great. When are you launching that? I want to put me on the front of your list. Can I be on the beta test? Right? Like even the podcast thing that you're doing, Derek, right? You were telling me about it. Derek has some new services and products that he's rolling out. What did I tell you right away, Derek? What was the first thing out of my mouth when you said you were doing this?
Make yourself the first beta tester.
I said, hey, Derek, how do I get on the beta launch of this? And I'll give you user feedback, and I'll be the best person to test this out because I need it. I want it. So that's how you know you have something, and it costs you nothing to do that.
It's way simpler than many people make it out to be. And bottom line, you just have to start. I mean, seriously, I will call out everybody. Like if you message me, and probably Gary would do the same, and I see the hint of that like resistance to start, I will call you out. I will say, just get started. But Gary, assuming you start, right? That's step number one. What's step number two to $1 million a month agency?
Okay, so this is for the first group of people we talked to, that's basically the people who haven't started. Now we're talking to people who have started. So if you've already started, this is for you. And if you haven't started, this isn't for you. Because so only step one is for you if you haven't started. So step two is niching down. The reason I broke that down like that, Derek, is because so many people are so worried about niching down before they start. Don't be. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
It only matters to niche down once you're started. So like where you're at in your agency, Derek, there's going to come a time where you're going to have to start really niching down and really figuring out, or niching down in either who you serve or how you serve them. One of those two things is going to have to happen for you to continue to grow. And that's uber important. The reason that's important is because operationally, you can't serve everybody. Whatever, I don't know what it is about entrepreneurs, but we always think, and I thought this, and every entrepreneur I've ever talked to thought this, I have to go wide so I have enough people to serve. And that's not the problem, right? That's not the problem. The problem is when you go wide, you actually don't build anything for anybody. It doesn't work. So the more you narrow down and the more you niche down, the more operationally focused you can become. There's a lot of other benefits as well.
Yeah, no, a lot of people, and if you look at really any business, because I've been really trying to see, hey, how do these hold up to even businesses that are not agencies? All of them have the same thing in common. They start selling something to someone. They don't worry about like their niche. They find somebody they can exchange, product or service for money. And then they realize, and you've talked about this on many other shows, wait a minute, 70% of my client base who's the most profitable for me and who I do the most business with looks like this person, and they're buying this thing. Now you have a niche. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Picking your niche after you start is the much more effective way to actually grow and scale to $1 million a month.
Yeah, and I think, again, if there's a seasoned business, I've talked to seasoned business people who've been in business who are like, I already understand this. I'm going to niche here, and that's great. Like if I was starting today, I would start niche as well in a particular field because I understand the power of that and what that gives me the ability to do. But if you don't understand business yet and you're just learning business and you're learning marketing and you're learning sales, then you're just going to have to say yes to people, take people's business, learn on the job. But that niching down is going to, it's so effective in so many different ways. It provides so much value for you and for the end user of your product that a niching down is something that you're eventually going to have to do.
Yeah. I mean, well, look, this point, on your agency or company journey, you've started, you've niched down, maybe you're making, 10 to 30K a month plus an MRR, maybe you're at almost 100K a month. Gary, what's that next step for someone looking to get to $1 million?
So, and this is related into niching down, but it's a little bit different. So it's not being an expert in all things. So I didn't learn this until way too late. So I used to say yes to everything, right? So the client comes to me and goes, man, Gary, we need email. So we operate a dental marketing agency. I'll say that to begin. So we'll have a dentist come to us and say, Gary, we need internal marketing for more patient referrals. We need email marketing for existing customers. We need this new social media thing. We need somebody to manage it. And we would always jump into it. I'd just be like, yep, because I want to keep the clients happy. But what that did is it actually watered down what we did. And operationally, it didn't help us achieve what we were actually trying to accomplish. I'll give you an exact example. So we used to manage everybody's social media, and it was like a side thing that we did. Well, here's what happened, Derek. One day we were like, well, we're not going to offer that anymore. And if we do, we're going to charge for it. Guess what? People are like, nah, we don't want it. And so we had this product that we were providing to people using a lot of resources that people actually didn't care about. And it didn't help us actually provide new patients at the end. So we were just like, okay, well, hey, we're not going to provide that anymore because people don't need it. And so, and now we do offer it, but we charge for it and things like that. So there's just so many things that you don't have to do. You just need to be an expert in one thing. That's it.
Go ahead.
No, go for it.
Yeah, no, to that point, I actually recently listening to an Alex Hormozi podcast, as one does. And in that episode, for somebody who actually wants to figure out, hey, I have these services I'm offering, they take up a lot of operational bandwidth, but we don't charge for them or they're not the most profitable. How do you actually go about getting rid of it while you're worrying that what if this costs me the client? He actually described a way that you can do a survey, a customer survey. And one of the questions is, hey, if you had to pick one thing out of all of our services that you actually would want and where it still would justify the price, and then the flip side is what you would remove where it would still justify the price, the results were outstanding. The example he was giving was he was able to 10x profits in one of his companies by eliminating 90% of it. In his case, he actually eliminated the entire customer service department. That's crazy. No customer service. It cost him thousands of dollars a month, gone because nobody wanted customer service, and he just saved a ton of money right to the bottom line.
Yeah, and you can constantly be doing this, but where we get it again, this is where entrepreneurs, what makes us good at what we do actually hurts us. We want to add everything. We want to be like, no, we're the experts in all these things. We want to do everything end to end, and we have to touch everything, and that's not what makes a good business. The best example that I've seen of this is the Apple versus the Sony products or the Microsoft products. So you go in and you look at all of Microsoft products. They have hundreds of them.
Yep.
Hundreds of SKUs, hundreds of phones, hundreds of laptops, hundreds of all these different products. And Apple has like 20 or something like that. You could fit them all on one table. One company makes a lot of money. And the other company, they both make a lot of money. So both companies are insanely successful, but one is multiple times more successful because they've narrowed their focus. And they've decided that, hey, we're only going to have these products and we're going to make them very, very straightforward. And the other one has decided to diversify, still successful, but not to the same level.
Yep, no, that's absolutely right. Quick thought. There's ways to not be an expert, right? In the product you're offering, right? Going super specific on that. And also in the service you're offering. What about on the specific client or customer journey or experience? Is there a way to be better in niching down and not being an expert in that way when it comes to competing and being successful?
Absolutely. I think that goes back to the niching down. When you niche down on a particular service, and you say, I'm only going to serve podcast. I'm not going to do direct-to-consumer content. I'm not going to do email marketing videos. I'm not going to do every kind of personal branding content. I'm just going to do podcast. What that allows you to do is become an expert in delivering that content, and you're not having to build multiple channels or distributions for these different products that you're delivering. Think of it like a factory. Elon Musk only makes 5 cars. And he's able to make those 5 cars very, very efficiently and very cost effectively because he's built out his whole factories around 1 or 2 cars. When you make 300 cars, you can't do that. You need to be able to adjust those factories. You can't have 300 factories. So you have to build these factories, and they're very complex, and your cost is going to go up every single time you add a new SKU. Every time you add a new car to that line, it's going to cost you more. So niching down actually allows you to be much more effective in delivering that product and the onboarding and all of those kind of things. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so it sounds like bottom line, niching down and not trying to be the expert in everything is going to inherently create a better customer journey and experience overall.
100%. Yeah, it has to, because you're very singular minded. It has to result in a better customer journey. So the next thing that I would say, and this is something that worked well for me. Other people have not done it this way, and I'm sure they've been successful. But for me to be able to sleep at night, one thing that we've focused on is prioritizing the team's well-being over profits. And that's something that's not to say that we're not profitable, and that's not to say that we're not successful and we don't make money. We do, but that's not our priority. Our priority is working with a team and making sure that they're happy now and healthy. Now, I will say this though, Derek, if my team is healthy and happy and they're not churning, that actually results in more success for me and the business overall as well.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. When it comes to the team, right? I think any healthy business, their team has to be in a place where they're treated this way, right? Where the business is profitable, but their well-being is always put first. You know, somebody's sick, you can't expect them to perform. How about the flip side of it? So when you have your team in a position where they have all of this stuff, but they're not performing, what does that flip side look like?
Well, that's where accountability comes in. So I don't let compassion override accountability. And I think that's really important to understand that those are two totally separate things. So I have compassion. So if someone's sick or someone's not doing well, of course I want to help them. I want to support them. But if someone is not performing consistently at their job, then at that point we need to have a conversation about it. And if it's like, hey, well, my kid's been in the hospital, then we can work through that and we can figure something out. But if it's an ongoing thing and they can't perform and they can't do the job, then my responsibility then is to the rest of the team. Because when one person is not performing, that actually puts weight on all the other team members, and they have to do extra work, and they aren't spending time with their kids, and they aren't doing the things that they need to do personally because they are then picking up the slack. So the way I look at it is if one person's sandbagging and not performing, that actually puts weight on the rest of the team. Again, if it's something like I've had this happen recently, someone had an emergency with their kid. They had to leave. Everybody had to pick up the slack for that one person, but we were all willing to do that because that person would do that for us too. They've done it for me where I've had emergencies and things like that. So it is a give and take relationship. I think all relationships are give and take, and it's about begoing accountable and really not letting people suck or leech off the company. When there's going to be people who take advantage of your good nature, and you have to figure that out, and you have to weed those people out.
Yeah, balancing accountability and compassion is something I'm going through right now for sure. And it's a very difficult thing. It's one of the most difficult things I've ever had to manage, as I'm growing and scaling this company. But point number 5 here, I think, is a big part of how you can do this successfully.
Okay, so I'm going to go back really quickly. So to prioritizing team's well-being, one thing to help you with compassion is it's not. So a lot of times early on, I would be like, well, I want to be compassionate, and I know this person isn't performing, and I know they've been consistently not performing, but I want to be compassionate. It's not compassionate to let somebody consistently fail and suck the life out of the rest of the team members. That's not compassionate. So that's how you have to think about it and frame it, is that I'm not going to let this one person wreck it for everybody else. And that's actually the opposite of compassion. Compassion is holding this person accountable so they can turn it around, and even sometimes letting them go so that they can go do something great and your team can do something great. So I will say that. Okay. But the other thing that I think where a lot of entrepreneurs, I did myself for a long time where I messed up, is I wasn't open with the company finances with the team. I actually hid it. These were things that I was taught that were incorrect, that you hide the company's success because people are going to be jealous or people are going to be mad or they're going to want a piece of it. And the exact opposite is true. You have to have some level of transparency around finances to be able to get alignment for the team to be able to hit goals. You can't hit goals if nothing is transparent.
No, that's huge. How do you deal with, overcoming that? Because I will be fully honest, I even still have trouble with that. And I think I probably will for a while because I came from a background where I was always taught, keep your finances private, don't share it with a lot of people. How immediate are those benefits? And let me throw this one at you. Is it a necessity to do it this way to grow to $1 million a month?
I think so. It would be really hard if I didn't have the team's buy-in on where we're going. So we're trying now to go to 2 million a month and plus, right? So now how are we going to do that if I don't tell the team where we're going? How can I get in a boat and we have a team of people we're rowing this boat in a direction and it's really far and it's really hard and it's really cold. And I go, yeah, we're going over in this direction, but I'm not going to show you where we're going, and I'm not going to give you any visibility around that. You just have to trust me and keep rowing really hard. How long is that going to last? How long are they going to be able to row? So there has to be some landmarks along the way, and you have to. The other thing is, Derek, a lot of people, a lot of top talent are motivated by getting those top tier numbers, and they want to be in on that. If you were to hire me, I'd want to be in on that. I would want to know, hey, how do we get here? How can I help you? I want you to win, Derek, and you can win even at a bigger level than me, but I want to be a part of the winning, and I want to be able to win at a big level as well. And so that's part of being transparent with your numbers, at least top line numbers, at the bare minimum top line numbers of here's where the company's at. We're doing this much. This is where our target is. And then here's how you impact those numbers. So you should be going in with each department and making it clear to them how their activities impact your growth or with churn, how they impact not growing, right? So you can sell, you can onboard, but then if you're churning, that impacts growth. And if you don't talk about that with the team, then I'll give you an example. Here's a perfect example. I had team members who, when they didn't think that churn was a bad thing, it actually made their job easier. Think about that. I had team members who churn was not a bad thing to them because it actually made their job easier. So they just let churn happen, and it was kind of like, a breath of fresh air when a client would churn because it gave them more bandwidth, and they had no upside bonus or anything like that to keep growing. And so churn was actually a good thing for them. And that was working against me. So we had to rework all the bonus structures and the churn structures all around that, so that way they didn't feel that way anymore.
No, that's huge. And, when I started implementing this, especially top line, I love the way you described it. If you ask people to get on a boat, tell them, I don't know, you can't know where we're going, but just keep rowing until I tell you to stop. How many people are actually going to continue,
participating, yeah.
Nobody's going to do it, right? But if you just tell them, hey, we're heading here and there's this much to get there and here's how each of you can contribute, that's huge. And I definitely agree. I think at least top line revenues is huge. I don't know if necessarily sharing bottom line is really that necessary, but top line I think is huge. Gary, somebody at this point, they've started their agency, right? They've niched down, they've got some sales, they've niched down. They're not being an expert, so they're really focusing on a specific person with a specific product or service, right? They're prioritizing their team's well-being. Without their team, they can't grow. They're open to the team about the company finances. What is next?
Yeah, so now that means you know your KPIs, because you're open about the finances, how each department impacts your top line. So you're probably a pretty successful business at this point. Now it's time to ask for help. So what's going to happen is the company's going to have some talent around them now, and people are going to need to start coming in and being better than you at a lot of different things. And that takes being humble. That's hard. So I have tons of team members that are better than me at tons of different things. on the team. And I constantly tell them that, right? Like, I'm so thankful I have you here because I couldn't do this. All right. I can't do this, or I don't want to do this. I don't even want to learn this. And you're amazing at that. A lot of leaders, again, this is our entrepreneurship, right? We want to, and we believe that we can do things at a higher level than anybody else. And that's great. That allows you to start your business, but it doesn't allow you to grow your business. Being humble and being able to ask people for help allows for other amazing people to come onto your team and really take things to a whole nother level.
No, that's absolutely true. For me, being humble is a big part of my growth journey as just a human being. I've always been fairly humble. I'm never one to brag, but when it comes to growing a business, I think that that's huge when you approach your team, right? Because to your point, I'm thinking of a lot of positions on my team right now, and I tell my team I'm grateful for them every day. Like, I would not be able to function without you. Like, this role, if it was on me, I wouldn't be able to do it. We just wouldn't be able to grow. It just wouldn't work.
Yeah. And the other thing is that this idea that you have to be this leader, so we paint this picture in our head that we have to be this leader that knows everything, that we show up to the meeting, that we're looking the part and we're the CEO, and that's not, maybe it's true for really, really, really big companies that are doing, billions of dollars in sales or whatever. It's not true for companies my size or your size. It's really what you need to be is there to help set the tone of the culture of the company and help make sure that the team has what they need to be successful. And when your mindset switches to my job is to set these people up for success, not their job to set me up for success, it totally takes on a whole different role. And really, you're quiet most of the time. You're listening most of the time. And that's hard to do, especially when you started. You talking and you doing everything was really the main thing. I sat in a meeting today. It was an hour long for about a new product that we're launching. And I talked for maybe 3 minutes of it.
That is awesome.
And which is cool, but it's because there's a lot of people there that are way better at multiple different things and multiple different levels than I am.
When it comes to setting up a team for success, and I'm very guilty of this, there's a very thin line between giving them everything they need to succeed and trying to please everybody, which is point number 7. How do you avoid pleasing everybody, and how does this actually play in onto your journey of growing a company or an agency?
Yeah, so you're not going to make everybody happy. So when I grew my agency, this is what you're going to go through. Right now, more than likely, you kind of give people a lot of rope. So you're just like, hey, here's your job. Just do it. You're good, right? Here's an SOP. Figure it out, and you're totally good. And the people that are around you love that. Absolutely love it because that's the kind of people they are. They love the freedom. They love the flexibility. What's going to happen, and it might take a while, but you're going to get to the place where you're like, I need more structure. I'm not going to be able to survive as a business. You're going to have 40 team members and you're going to need some massive structure overhaul. And what that structure is going to do is it's going to provide accountability. So you're going to be like, whoa, Bobby, after I put the structure in, I realize that you're doing half the output that Roger's doing. You guys do the same job and they're not going to like that. They're going to in fact, some people are going to hate it. And I had people tell me, Gary, you changed. And I'm like, yeah, I hope so. I just 5X my business. I hope I've changed. I hope that I've learned something from this and I'm not doing it the exact same way, right? And they said, well, no, you're going corporate. Well, what does that mean? I'm going corporate. Like, I've been an S corp for a long time. What does that mean? Well, you're like demanding this and you want this structure. And I'm like, oh, you mean I'm putting infrastructure in to be able to scale to the next stage? Yep. I need that now. I have to have that now. And what I realized, Derek, being compassionate, I was like, oh, they loved the loose flow that we were before. And the new structure they don't like, and that's okay. That was for our team members. And some of our clients didn't like it either. Some of the clients said, well, we want Gary on every single call. And I couldn't be on every single call. I had to tell them, literally had to tell clients, hey, my job is to take care of my team now. I can't be on every single sales call anymore. I can't be on every single account management call anymore. I have too many clients, but I'm going to set you up for success. Some people were good with it. Most people were, but we did lose some clients through that. And you have to be okay with that. If you're the kind of leader that you go, I'm not okay with that, then you're not going to be able to grow.
Yeah, another Alex Hermosi banger quote that I will throw in there, to add to that is, if someone ever comes to you and says, you've changed, your answer back should be, you haven't? And just leave it at that. That's all that needs to be said. That's more than enough on that point. You have to grow and you have to change, and it's super important. One thing to add on the compassion, like, hey, when you were, leaner and smaller, they would fit really well into that environment. But as you grow and as you explained, you put infrastructure in, it's totally natural for people not to like that new system and for them to need to go elsewhere. Some people just prefer it. So we told you there was going to be 7, but we're throwing in a little bonus here, right? Of just getting to $1 million a month in MRR. And this kind of boils down to how to be as a leader, right? So yeah, there's empathy and all that stuff. But there's one thing, Gary, right? One more thing that's even more powerful at times than being empathetic is to the growth of your company. What would that be?
Yeah, so we talked about point number 6 was be humble and ask for help, but there's also a level of vulnerability that you have to get comfortable with. You have to be able to tell people, this is where I'm weak. And that's hard to do. Super hard to do. It takes a lot of practice. And the more I've done it on social media, the more followers and interaction I get. The more I do it internally, the more help I get. And the more I have these conversations, the stronger and stronger I get, because it allows for people to fill in those voids where I am weak and where the company's weak or wherever it is. But vulnerability, being able to say to people, hey, this is what my agency's not good at, and here's what we are good at. Because there's 2 sides of vulnerability. It's like, it's being vulnerable about what you're not good at, but also being self-aware of what you are good at. And when you combine those 2 things together, it attracts the perfect people to help you, and it repels the people that really you don't need around.
Yeah, it's something I've honestly struggled with, at first, significantly. But since, starting the show and learning about how powerful vulnerability actually can be, even today, I had to get vulnerable with my team. Say, guys, listen, I'm so sorry. I can't make it at 12 o'clock, family emergency. We have to push the meeting. They all jumped up. Like, please, do you need anything? Let me come help you. Like, how can we help you? Pushing the meeting is totally fine. We'll rework schedules. To see that kind of stuff when I'm being vulnerable, to not have to, hide anything from anybody, it's the feeling of relief to a level where I feel like I could scale to 50 million a month in MRR. It's that powerful, vulnerability.
Yeah, it is. And I don't know why we fight it so much. I fought it for years. I always thought that I had to be this killer.
Yep.
Like, have all the answers and never show any weakness at all in any kind of way. And really, that didn't build a great culture. It didn't build a great company. There was just created a ton of drama and problems, and I didn't get it. And then once I learned this and started learning, COVID really taught me this, because I had to be super vulnerable with the team. I had to tell the team that, hey, we might have to shut down. Here's how much money we have left. Here's our plan. Hopefully it works, but it might not work, and here's why. And I just had to have that talk every single week, Derek. I had a team meeting, and I'd have that talk. Here's where we're at. Here's how much money we have left. Hopefully it works. And I just told the team, this is what it is. And when I saw everybody come together around that and everybody rally around that, I knew right away, okay, this is how I need to operate all the time.
Yeah, no, vulnerability is huge. I think it's an unspoken superpower that a lot of people need to have, and I think why a lot of people struggle with it, at least why I know I struggled with it. I always felt like, and you said this before in the episode, is you always feel like you have to show up and be this killer, like you have to be number one, and you can't show any form of weakness. When it's quite the opposite. Your strengths come from your weaknesses and admitting to them, allowing your team to come in and help you lift you up, and in the process lift the company up. So super huge.
I'll say this quote I saw. Weak people hide their weaknesses. Strong people reveal their weaknesses.
And that is the perfect way to wrap this episode. That was huge. You guys, thanks so much for listening, watching, tuning in every single week. I apologize that episode uploads have been sporadic. We had some issues with the uploads. We're actually uploading an episode right now. Like, as soon as we get off of this call, another episode comes out this Wednesday. By the time you're listening to this, both of those have already long been up. Thanks so much for being here, listening, watching, viewing, and subscribing. If you aren't subscribed to the YouTube, definitely do so. If you are not, if you haven't left us a review on iTunes and Spotify, do so, please. And check us out, TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. Gary, anything to add as we wrap things up?
Nope. Great episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you guys that watched to the end, and we know you're the real ones.
All right, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.